Hey everyone, and welcome back to Motivation Library. Today we're diving into a book that's both well-known and, I think, infamous for its kind of cutthroat approach to the world, The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And to help me break this all down, I've got our resident expert.
Hi, everybody.
Here with me.
Thanks for having me.
The 48 Laws of Power, this book's been out there for a while.
It has.
I think it came out in the 90s.
It did, 1998.
And it's been, generating buzz ever since.
Yeah.
For those who might not be familiar with it, can you give us like a quick rundown of what this book's about?
Sure. So it's basically a guide to understanding and navigating power dynamics. Greene uses examples from history, from figures like Napoleon, Machiavelli, and even Cleopatra to illustrate these 48 laws.
Okay, so it's not like a self-help book in the traditional sense.
Not really, no. It's more about observing and understanding the often unspoken rules of how power operates.
Okay, so that's interesting. You said it's not a traditional self-help book. Where do you think it falls?
It's tough to categorize. I mean, some might call it a philosophy book, others a strategy guide. I think it's a blend of both. It's definitely about understanding human nature and how people gain and maintain influence.
So how do we even begin to break down 48 laws of power?
Well, we could go through each law one by one, discuss its key points, and maybe share some examples of how it plays out in the real world.
Okay, that sounds like a plan, so let's dive in.
Sounds good.
Law number 1, never outshine the master.
Oh, this is a big one. It's all about managing the ego of those in power above you.
Okay.
You never want to make your boss or superiors feel threatened or insecure.
Makes sense.
It's about making them feel smarter and more powerful.
Okay, so you're not necessarily saying be a pushover.
No, not at all. It's more about being strategic.
Yeah.
About subtly highlighting their strengths while still showcasing your own abilities.
Okay, so it's like a delicate dance?
It is. You need to find that balance between being competent but not making those above you feel threatened.
Do you have any good examples of this from the book?
Yeah. Greene uses the example of Michelangelo. Here's this artistic genius working for the Pope. And he's smart enough to know he can't constantly outshine his patron.
Right.
He had to find a way to make the Pope look good while still showcasing his own talent.
So it's like you said managing the ego, but it's also like playing the game.
Exactly. It's understanding the rules and using them to your advantage.
Okay, that's a good first law to get us started.
It sets the tone for the rest of the book, for sure.
It does. All right, so law number 2, never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies.
Yeah, this is where things start to get a little controversial.
This one sounds a little cutthroat, it is. But Greene's point is that friends can be unpredictable when it comes to power. They might turn on you if it serves their interests.
Right.
Enemies, on the other hand, have clear motives. You know where they stand.
Okay, so this is where it starts to get a little...
It's definitely a more cynical view of human nature.
But Greene argues that it's a necessary perspective if you want to navigate the world of power effectively.
So what kind of example does he give?
He tells a story about a sultan and his incredibly loyal vizier. The vizier is honest and dedicated, but his honesty actually makes him enemies.
Okay.
And these enemies manipulate the sultan, turning him against his most trusted advisor.
It's like, age, you got to do this.
Yeah.
Even when you're doing the right thing, there can be consequences.
Exactly. Power dynamics can be complex, and often those who play by the rules end up getting hurt.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see where this book's going. All right, so law number 3, conceal your intentions.
The art of deception.
This sounds like we're getting into
sneaky territory a little bit. This law is all about keeping your cards close to your chest, not revealing your true motives or goals too early.
Okay.
Keep people guessing.
Create a little mystery.
Exactly. A little intrigue.
Okay, an A.
Yeah.
What's the reasoning behind this?
Well, when you're unpredictable, you keep your opponents off balance, they can't anticipate your moves, and it gives you a strategic advantage.
So it's almost like a psychological game.
Very much so. It's about using deception, not necessarily to harm others, but to protect yourself and advance your own interests.
Yeah.
An example.
Greene talks about P.T. Barnum.
Oh, yeah, the showman.
The master of spectacle. He once hired a guy to just walk around laying bricks.
Wait, what? Just laying bricks?
Yep. For no apparent reason. It was so bizarre.
Yeah.
That everyone was buzzing about it, trying to figure out what was going on, and all that buzz created huge crowds for Barnum's museum.
So he's basically creating this distraction.
Exactly. A smokescreen.
Yep.
To draw attention to his business.
Okay, and
Yeah.
while everybody's distracted, he can do whatever it is he wants to do.
Precisely. That's a brilliant example of using distraction to achieve your goals.
It's like yes, misdirection,
yeah.
like a magician.
Yeah. But in
Real life.
exactly. In the game of power. Okay. That's a good one. All right. Law number 4. Always say less than necessary.
This is one I actually struggle with sometimes. I tend to over-explain things. But Greene argues that saying less can actually make you more powerful.
Okay. So how does that work?
When you speak less, people are forced to fill in the gaps with their own assumptions. This gives your words more weight and mystery.
Okay. So it's like back to that. Conceal your intentions, creating that aura.
Exactly. It's about leaving a little something to the imagination.
The example.
It talks about Louis XIV, a Sun King who was known for saying, "I shall see," such a simple phrase, but it kept everyone guessing and vying for his attention.
Okay, so it's not about, like, being silent or not communicating.
No, it's about choosing your words carefully and making them count.
Okay, that's good strategy. All right, law number 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life.
This one's pretty straightforward. Your reputation is everything. It precedes you and shapes how people perceive you. Exactly. It's your currency in the world of power, and you need to protect it at all costs.
Okay, and what kind of examples?
Greene gives the example of General Liang in ancient China. This general cultivated such a fierce reputation that he could intimidate his enemies without even fighting them.
Wow, so it's like psychological warfare.
Exactly. It's about using your reputation as a weapon.
Okay, that's powerful.
It is.
All right, so we've already gotten through 5 laws.
Yeah.
And we're just getting warmed up, so.
There's a lot more to come.
We'll take a quick break.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back to dive into the next set of laws.
Sounds good. Yeah, a lot more to unpack for sure.
Okay, law number 6. Court attention at all cost.
Ah, yes, this one can seem to contradict some of the previous laws.
Like, never outshine the master.
Exactly. But this one is about standing out from the crowd when it serves your purpose.
It's just like, knowing when to...
Yes, blend in. And when to stand out. Knowing when to be the peacock and when to be the chameleon.
Okay, I like that. What example comes to mind?
Greene uses the example of Lola Montez.
Okay, I've heard that name.
A 19th century actress and dancer who used outrageous behavior and scandals to gain notoriety.
So she was intentionally trying to...
She knew how to create a spectacle.
Yeah.
And use it to her advantage.
So it's not just about, like you said, being flashy. It's about
being strategic with your attention.
Yeah.
Knowing how to capture it when you need it.
Okay. Law number 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit.
Ah, yes. The art of delegation.
That sounds like ham. It could go wrong.
It definitely can if you're not careful.
So how do you walk that line?
It's about finding talented people who can execute your vision while still making sure you're seen as the mastermind, the leader.
Okay. You can't just take all the credit. Do none of the work.
No, you need to be involved. You need to provide direction and guidance, but you also need to know how to delegate effectively and let others shine.
Okay, so what's the example here?
Greene talks about Thomas Edison, who famously took credit for many inventions that were actually developed by his team of researchers. He was a master at building a brand and marketing his image.
Right. But he also understood the importance of having a talented team.
Exactly.
Okay. Law number 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary.
This one's about scarcity and creating a sense of desire.
So it's like playing hard to get.
In a way, yes. But it's more than that. It's about making yourself valuable by not being readily available.
Okay. You're not.
Yeah.
Chasing after opportunities.
And you're making opportunities come to you.
Okay. So what's the example here?
He talks about Napoleon's escape from Elba. He didn't just sit around waiting to be rescued. He took action. He made himself a problem that his enemies had to deal with.
Okay. So it's like taking control.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and dictating the terms of engagement.
Okay. Law number 9. Win through your actions, never through argument.
This is a powerful one. It's about letting your results speak for themselves. Actions speak louder than words.
Right. So it's not about getting in the argument.
No, it's about proving yourself through your accomplishments.
Okay. What's the example?
He uses Michelangelo again.
Okay. He likes Michelangelo.
He does. When a rival criticized Michelangelo's work, Michelangelo didn't waste time arguing. He simply let his art speak for itself.
So it's like, don't get bogged down in the details. Let the work speak for you.
Exactly.
Okay? Law number 10, infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky.
This one sounds a little harsh.
Yeah, it does.
But it's about protecting your own energy and mindset.
Okay, you're not saying to completely avoid people who are unhappy.
No, it's about being mindful
Yeah.
of the company you keep. Negativity can be contagious.
Yeah.
And it can drag you down.
Okay, what's the example?
Greene tells the story of the Marquis de Pré, a French aristocrat who was so negative and miserly that he ended up completely isolated, even though he was wealthy.
It's like his negativity was his own downfall.
In a way, yes.
Okay, law number 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you.
This one's all about creating leverage.
Okay, how do you do that?
By becoming indispensable, by developing a unique skill set, or providing a service that others rely on.
Okay, so it's not about being manipulative.
Not necessarily. It's about providing value and making yourself essential.
Okay.
Think about Michelangelo again.
Okay. He keeps coming up. He was good at this.
He was a master. His artistic talent made him indispensable to powerful patrons.
Because they needed his skills.
Exactly.
Okay. Law number 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim.
This one's about psychology.
Okay. How so?
It's about understanding that people are more likely to trust you if you appear honest and generous.
Okay, so building up that trust.
Exactly, but it's also about being selective.
Right, you're not just giving away your honesty and generosity.
Just use it strategically to lower people's defenses.
Okay, so what's the example?
He talks about Count Victor Lustig, the man who sold the Eiffel Tower.
Wait, what? He sold the Eiffel Tower?
Twice.
How is sell?
The Eiffel Tower.
He was a con man.
Okay, a very good one.
A master.
Yeah.
He used selective honesty and charm to convince people that he had the authority to sell it. Okay, so he's using these laws for evil.
Well, you could say that, but he was also a brilliant strategist.
Okay, law number 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude.
This one's about understanding motivation.
Okay, what motivates people?
People are more likely to help you if they see something in it for themselves.
Okay, so it's like
a win-win.
Exactly. You need to frame your request in a way that benefits the other person.
So instead of saying, please help me, I'm desperate, you're saying, hey, I think this could be beneficial for you.
Exactly. It's about appealing to their self-interest.
What's the example?
Greene tells the story of an Italian warlord who ignored appeals to his mercy, but responded favorably to arguments that benefited him.
Like, you gotta know your audience.
Exactly. You need to understand what makes them tick.
Okay. Law number 14, pose as a friend, work as a spy.
This one's about gathering information and being observant. That's not about actually being
a spy. Not in the traditional sense, but it's about being aware of your surroundings, paying attention to what people say and do, and reading between the lines.
Okay, so you're gathering intel.
Exactly. You're using your social interactions to learn valuable information.
What kind of example?
Greene talks about Talleyrand, a French diplomat who was a master at this. He used social gatherings and even games to extract information from unsuspecting diplomats.
This is like being a good listener, but also being a little bit manipulative.
It can be a fine line.
Right. Okay, law number 15. Crush your enemy totally.
This is one of the most aggressive laws.
It sounds it. Crush your enemy totally.
Greene argues that if you're going to take on an enemy, you need to completely neutralize them.
Okay, so no half measures.
No half measures. Leaving even a shred of power can come back to haunt you.
Okay, what's the example?
He uses the rivalry between two Chinese generals, Shang Yu and Liu Peng. One showed mercy and was later betrayed. The other went for total victory and became emperor.
So it's like...
It's a harsh lesson, but Greene argues that it's a necessary one in the world of power.
Okay. Law number 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor.
This one's about the power of scarcity.
Okay, so if you're green, always around, people take you for granted.
Exactly. By making yourself less available, you increase your perceived value.
That's that. Yeah. Supply and demand.
Exactly.
Okay, but you can go too far with this.
You can. He cautions against becoming too isolated, because that can lead to a loss of power as well.
Okay, so it's finding that balance.
It is, between being present but not overexposed.
What's the example?
He uses the example of a Chinese emperor who retreated into his palace and became so isolated that he lost touch with his court and ultimately his power.
It's like he was playing
Yeah.
Hard to get, but he went too far.
Exactly. He lost that connection. That's essential for maintaining power.
Okay. Law number 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability.
This one's about keeping your opponents guessing.
Okay, so it's back to that. Unpredictability.
Exactly. When your actions are unpredictable, your opponents can't anticipate your moves. And it gives you a psychological advantage.
It makes them nervous.
It does. It keeps them on edge. They're always wondering what you're going to do next.
Okay. What example?
He gives a pretty vivid example.
Okay. Lay it on me.
From ancient China, where armies would tie burning branches to the tails of oxen.
Wait, what? Burning branches to the tails of oxen.
And then send them charging into the enemy ranks.
I said, that's pretty wild.
It's chaotic.
Yeah, but effective.
It created mass confusion and fear.
Right, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's unpredictable.
Okay, law number 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous.
This one's about the importance of connection.
Okay, so you're not saying don't protect yourself.
It's not about physical fortresses, it's about metaphorical ones.
Okay, it's about the walls we build up.
Exactly, to isolate ourselves from others.
It's like too much of that. Can't be.
It can. True power comes from connection, from building relationships, from being part of a community.
Okay. What's the example?
He contrasts Louis XIV, who built Versailles to keep his court close, with a Chinese emperor who isolated himself and lost control.
So it's like you need people.
You do,
Yeah.
even when you're in a position of power.
Okay. Law number 19. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person.
This one's about being observant,
Okay. And strategic.
about choosing your battles wisely.
So it's like you don't want to. That's the wrong people.
Exactly. Some people are best avoided.
Right. Well, this can be manipulated. Okay. So you got to know the difference.
It's about understanding the power dynamics. In any given situation,
That's the example.
Greene uses examples from history to illustrate this point. From Lola Montez to Otto von Bismarck, he shows how important it is to know who you're dealing with.
Okay. So it's like do your research.
Exactly, before you engage in any kind of power struggle.
All right. Law number 20. Do not commit to anyone.
This one's about maintaining your independence.
Okay. So it's like not getting tied down.
In a sense, yes. It's about keeping your options open, not letting yourself become beholden to any one person or
So
group.
it's not picking sides.
You're playing the field.
Okay. What's the example?
He uses Otto von Bismarck again as an example. Bismarck was a master at playing different European powers against each other. He kept himself free from entangling alliances.
Okay. So it's like strategic, non-commitment.
You could say that. It's about staying agile and adaptable.
Okay. Law number 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark.
This one's about deception.
Okay. But a different kind of deception.
It's about making your opponent feel smarter than you, lulling them into a false sense of security.
Okay. So it's like you're playing possum.
You could say that. You're letting them underestimate you.
Okay. And then you strike.
Exactly. When they least expect it.
What's the example?
He uses the example of a diamond mine hoax.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
Two prospectors, Philip Arnold and John Slack, pretended to stumble upon this incredibly valuable diamond mine. They played dumb, acted like they had no idea what they were doing.
People bought it.
They did. They exploited people's greed and desire for easy riches.
Wow. So it's like reverse psychology.
In a way. Yeah.
Okay. Law number 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power.
This one's about using your opponent's strength against them. Sometimes appearing weak can be the strongest move.
Okay. So how does that work?
When you appear helpless, your opponent lets their guard down. They become overconfident, and that's when you strike.
Okay. It's like a rope-a-dope.
Exactly.
What's the example?
Greene uses the examples of Cesar Borgia
Okay.
and Napoleon, both of whom used bold attack tactics that caught their opponents off guard.
So they're using the element of surprise.
Exactly.
Okay. Law number 23. Concentrate your forces.
This one's about focus.
Okay.
So don't spread yourself too thin. Focus your energy and resources on a single, well-defined goal.
So it's like prioritize.
Exactly. And then
Put all your effort into that one thing.
precisely.
Example.
He uses the fable of the lion and the wild ass.
Okay. I've heard that one.
The ass tries to kick the lion everywhere, but its attacks are weak. The lion focuses on one powerful blow and wins.
Okay. So it's quality over quantity.
Exactly.
Okay. Law number 24. Play the perfect courtier.
This was about social intelligence.
Yeah.
And understanding the nuances of human interaction.
So it's like reading people.
Yes, and knowing how to behave in different social situations.
Okay, so it's being a chameleon?
In a way.
Yes.
Okay, what's the example?
Hey, Greene uses the example of the painter J.M.W. Turner, who understood how to manage the egos and jealousies of his fellow artists.
Okay, so he's playing the game.
He was a master at navigating the social dynamics of the art world.
Okay, law number 25, recreate yourself.
This was about personal transformation.
Okay,
It's about crafting a persona that projects the image you want to convey.
So it's like personal brand. Exactly. It's about controlling how others perceive you and using that to your advantage.
Okay, what is the example?
Use the example. George Sand,
Okay. I don't think I know that one.
19th century French novelist who adopted a male persona to gain acceptance in the literary world.
Oh, she was. Like,
Yeah.
changing her identity.
In a way, yes. She understood that society often places limitations on women, and she chose to transcend those limitations.
Breaking free from those expectations.
Exactly.
Okay, law number 26, keep your hands clean.
Ah, yes. The art of plausible deniability.
So this sounds like we're getting into some shady stuff.
It can be. This law is about distancing yourself from your actions, using others as pawns to do your dirty work.
Okay, so you're the one behind the scenes, pulling the strings, but you never get your hands dirty.
Okay, what? Example.
He uses Cleopatra as an example.
Okay. How does she do it? She strategically used messengers and intermediaries to interact with Mark Antony. This allowed her to maintain an air of mystery and distance herself from any potential fallout.
So it's like...
She's protecting reputation?
Exactly.
Okay. So it's like
Yeah.
she was a politician.
In a way.
Okay. Law number 27. Play on people's need to believe. To create a cult-like following.
This one sounds a little intense.
It does. Are we talking about starting a cult?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It's about understanding
Yeah.
that people have a deep need
Yeah.
to believe in something.
Right. To feel connected to something larger than themselves. So it's like
it.
you can give them that sense of belonging, that sense of purpose.
And that can be incredibly powerful.
Okay. What's the example?
Greene talks about a charismatic healer, known as the Mountain Doctor,
Mm-hmm.
who used theatrics and vague promises to create a devoted following.
Okay. So he's tapping into...
He was a master at playing on people's hopes and fears.
Okay. So it's like, you gotta be careful who you trust. You do.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to charismatic leaders.
Right. Okay. Law number 28, enter action with boldness.
This one's about projecting confidence.
Okay. And taking decisive action.
Exactly.
So it's like, even if you're not feeling confident, you get...
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
It can be part of it.
Yeah.
But it's also about recognizing that taking action, even if it's imperfect, is often better than doing nothing.
Okay. So don't be afraid to make a move.
Exactly.
What's the example?
He uses Count Victor Lustig again.
Oh, yeah. The Eiffel Tower guy.
His scheme to sell the Eiffel Tower required incredible boldness.
Okay. So it's like, he had the confidence.
He did, even if it was misplaced.
Right. Okay. Law number 29, plan all the way to the end.
This one's about thinking ahead.
Okay. Anticipating obstacles.
Exactly.
So it's like,
Yeah.
you don't want to just start something without thinking about
You
it.
need a plan. You need to consider all the possible outcomes.
Right. And have a contingency plan.
Precisely.
Example.
He uses a story about a king, a Sufi, and a surgeon to illustrate this point.
Okay.
So king makes a rash decision without thinking through the consequences, and it leads to disaster.
Okay. So it's like, don't be hasty.
Think before you act.
Okay. Law number 30, make your accomplishments seem effortless.
This one's about the power of perception.
Okay. So how do you make it look easy?
It's about concealing the effort and struggle behind your successes.
Well, it's like making it look
You
like...
were born with it.
Yeah. Okay, what's the example?
He talks about Balzac, the French novelist, who cultivated an image of effortless productivity.
Okay, so it's like a personal brand.
It is.
Okay. Law number 31, control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal.
This one's about subtly influencing people.
Okay, so it's like you're not forcing them to do anything?
No, you're framing their choices in a way that leads them to the outcome you desire.
Okay. What's the example?
He uses the example of a technique called choosing of straws to illustrate this point.
Okay, so it's like...
It's about giving people the illusion of choice.
Right, while still controlling the outcome. Okay. Law number 32. Play to people's fantasies.
This one's about understanding desire.
Okay. And using it to your advantage.
Exactly.
What's the example?
He tells a story about an alchemist who promised to turn lead into gold. People have always been drawn to such promises.
Of wealth and power.
It's about tapping into those deep-seated desires.
Okay. Law number 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew.
This one's a little dark.
It is. It sounds it.
But it's about understanding people's weaknesses and using that knowledge to your advantage.
So it's like...
You gotta find their pressure points.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
What's the example? He uses the example of Cardinal Richelieu,
Okay.
a powerful figure in French history,
Right.
who was a master manipulator.
Okay. So
He knew how to exploit people's weaknesses.
Right. To get what he wanted.
Exactly.
Okay. Law number 34. Be royal in your own fashion.
Act like a king to be treated like one.
This one's about confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And projecting an aura of authority.
Exactly. So even if you don't feel like a king, you need to act like one.
Okay.
People respond to confidence and authority.
Okay.
What's the example? He uses a contrasting example here.
Okay. Tell me.
King Louis Philippe tried to appear as a common man, and it ultimately undermined his authority.
So it's like, you gotta own it.
You do. You can't be afraid to embrace your power.
Okay. Law number 35. Master the art of timing.
This one's about patience.
Okay. And knowing when to strike.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's not about rushing into things.
Awesome.
It's about waiting for the right moment.
Oh, what's the example?
He uses the classic tale of the hare and the tortoise to illustrate this point.
Oh, yeah. Slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly.
Okay. Law number 36. Disdain things you cannot have.
Ignoring them is the best revenge.
This one sounds very stoic.
It is. It's about acceptance.
Oh, of things you can't control.
Exactly.
What's the example? He tells a story about a Japanese emperor whose prized tea bowl was broken.
Okay. And he was upset.
Instead of getting angry, he calmly accepted the loss, recognizing that there was nothing he could do to change it.
Okay. So it's like, don't dwell on things you can't control.
Exactly.
Right. Law number 37, create compelling spectacles.
This one's about the power of imagery and symbolism.
It's like you're putting on a show.
You are.
Okay.
You're creating an experience that people will remember.
What's the example?
He uses Cleopatra's theatrical arrival in Tarsus.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about that.
She sailed in on a lavish barge dressed as the goddess Aphrodite. It was a spectacle that no one can forget.
So it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Make an impression.
Exactly.
Okay. Law number 38, think as you like, but behave like others.
This one's a bit tricky.
It is.
It's about finding that balance between individuality and social conformity.
Okay.
So it's okay to have your own thoughts and beliefs, but outwardly, you should conform to social norms and expectations.
Okay, so...
You don't want to rock the boat.
Right. Too much.
Exactly.
Okay, what's the example?
He uses the example of a Spartan general who embraced Persian customs and ended up alienating his own people.
Okay, so...
Yeah.
He was trying to be different, but it backfired.
It did.
Okay. Law number 39, stir up waters to catch fish.
This one's about using chaos.
Okay. To your advantage.
Exactly. Sometimes creating a little bit of disruption can be a good thing.
Okay, what's the example?
He uses the example of Alcibiades, an Athenian general who was known for his strategic brilliance and his unpredictable behavior.
Okay, so he's like...
A master of chaos.
Yeah. Okay, law number 40, despise the free lunch.
This one's about being wary of gifts and favors.
Okay. So it's like...
Nothing is truly free.
Right. There's always a cost.
There's always a string attached.
Okay, what's the...
Example, he uses the story of the Trojan horse.
Oh, yeah.
A classic example of a gift that comes at a high price.
Right. Okay. Law number 41, avoid stepping into a great man's shoes.
This one's about forging your own path.
Okay. Oh.
Don't try to be the next someone.
Right. Be the first you.
Exactly.
Okay.
What's the example? He uses the example of Louis XIV,
Okay.
who created his own unique style and court culture.
So like...
He didn't try to imitate.
He innovated. Okay. Law number 42, strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter.
This one's about identifying the key player.
Okay. The one who holds the power.
Exactly.
Example.
He uses the example of Rasputin, who gained incredible influence over the Russian Tsarina.
So it's like he
found the weak spot
and
exploited it.
Okay. Law number 43, work on the hearts and minds of others.
This one's about persuasion
Okay.
and influence.
Exactly. It's not about force or coercion.
Yeah.
It's about winning people over.
Okay, what's the example?
He uses the example of an ancient Chinese military strategy. They used empty forts to psychologically manipulate their enemies.
Okay.
So it's about creating an illusion.
Right. To influence people's behavior. Exactly.
Okay, law number 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect.
This one's about using people's own behavior against them,
Okay.
reflecting their actions back at them in a way that exposes their
Yeah,
weaknesses.
okay, so it's like psychological. Jiu-jitsu.
You could say that.
What's the example?
He talks about Alcibiades again,
Okay.
highlighting his ability to mirror the customs and values of different cultures to gain their trust and manipulate them.
Okay. Law number 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once.
This one's about the pace of change.
Okay.
People are naturally resistant to change, so you need to introduce it gradually.
Okay.
What's the example? He uses the example of Mao Zedong, who's a master at this.
So it's like, you got to ease people into it.
Yeah. Okay. Law number 46. Never appear too perfect.
This one's about managing envy and resentment. So if you appear too perfect, people will be jealous
Right.
and they'll try to bring you down.
Okay.
What's the example? He uses the example of Cosimo de' Medici.
Okay. I've heard of them. A powerful Florentine banker who downplayed his wealth and influence.
So it's like,
He didn't flaunt it. He flew under the radar.
okay. Law number 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for.
In victory, learn when to stop.
This one's about knowing when to quit while you're ahead.
Exactly.
What's the example?
He uses the example of the Spartans.
Okay. What happened to them?
They won the Peloponnesian War, but their success ultimately led to their downfall.
So it's like too much success can be,
It can be a dangerous thing.
yeah. Okay. And finally, law number 48. Assume formlessness.
This is the final law, and it's perhaps the most important.
Okay. Why is that?
It's about being adaptable and fluid, like
Right.
water.
Okay.
Don't be rigid. Don't be stuck in your ways. Be open to change.
Okay.
That's how you survive and thrive in the world of power.
Wow. We just covered all 48 laws.
We did. That was a journey.
It was. So what do we do with all this information?
Yeah, this is a question, isn't it?
It is. It's a lot to process.
It is. But I think the most important thing is to remember that these laws are just tools.
Okay.
It's how you use them is up to you.
You can use them for good or for evil.
Exactly.
So what's the best way to use these?
I think the key is to use them ethically.
Right. And responsibly.
Don't let power corrupt you.
Okay. So for our listeners out there, if you're interested in learning more about the 48 laws of power, I highly recommend picking up a copy of the book.
It's a fascinating read, even if you don't agree with everything in it.
Right. It's sure to make you think.
It will.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the 48 laws of power.
It's been a pleasure.
And for you listening out there, keep those minds sharp and those intentions clear. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of ideas.
See that?